Welcome to Lush Living. Today's topic is about, I don't like how washed out I am. Turn this light off. All right, is that any better? The light in here is awesome today, except that I'm looking very, very washed out. Okay, maybe I'll turn. I can go into the corner a little bit. Okay, take two. Welcome to Lush Living. I'm Katie Lush, the creator. Today's topic is about my journey into natural movement. So the other day, I was looking up a very old email. I was trying to get the date of something. And as a result, I ended up pulling up this really great series of emails. One was to Katie Bowman, who's the head of Nutritious Movement. And it was like right when I learned about her program and was about to join her program, the Restorative Exercise Specialist program, that is unfortunately now closed. But it was a really sweet email telling her about how her work has changed my life, how I need to figure out how to integrate it into my Pilates teaching, and how it was the paradigm shift that I needed. So that was fun. And then I found, if you have ever listened to her blog, I don't know, I'm like very fidgety today. I just keep wanting to like touch and move things. I'm gonna stop. So if you've ever read or listened to Katie Bowman's podcast called Move Your DNA, at the end of the year, she tends to do like a year-end recap. And she has like a list of questions that I think are actually pretty good. So it's kind of New Year's resolution-y, but not really. So anyways, I found that too from 2015, 2016, which was basically when I started all of this natural movement. And I'm just gonna say natural movement. It's so much more than that, but I feel like if I say natural movement, that makes the most sense to most people. So back in 2015, I needed to do some continuing education like every good Pilates instructor needs to do every 2 years. And my friend Jeremy, who's another Pilates instructor here in Chicago, invited me to encouraged me to take a workshop at Pilates on Tour, which is the Balanced Body Nationwide workshop program. So he was like, come take Philip Beach's workshop. I'm like, cool, who's that? He was like, I don't know, it's just this guy. I think he's gonna be really good. I was like, cool, I will take that because I trust everything that Jeremy says. So this is great. It was the pre-conference. It's out in Burr Ridge, and we're in a big conference room, like a hotel conference room, and there's no chairs. And I assume that this is gonna be mostly lecture-based. And everybody's like sitting on the floor. And I walk in, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not sitting on the floor this entire time. So I like grab a chair and put it in the room and go and sit on it. So if you know anything about Philip Beach, his whole like, what's the word? Like, his mission is furniture-free, archetypal postures, and taking traditional Chinese medicine meridian points and applying it to our body from a embryologic standpoint. So like basically as you're born and the way that your body grows, we have all these meridian points. So here I am, and I'm like, I'm sitting on this chair and everybody else is sitting on the floor, and I'm like, what are they doing sitting on the floor? This is crazy. I'm spending good money on this workshop, and lo and behold, he basically unveils why we need to be sitting on the floor more. Like slide myself onto the ground. And then I put my arm on the chair, and then I put my writing pad on the chair. And I'm so incredibly embarrassed. It's like over the top embarrassing. So what was so poignant? What did he talk about? So archetypal postures. They're basically, here I am, I'm wanting to fidget again. So archetypal postures. It's kind of like what it sounds like. It's something that like our ancestors did. So if you can think about our ancestors, and they didn't live in homes per se, and they didn't have running water, how did they move about their life? what postures did they assume on a very regular basis? So a lot of floor sitting, crawling, climbing, running a little bit, walking a ton, carrying heavy things. So kind of all of that. So in learning that, he actually laid out all the different archetypal postures that are the potential of, and he had us practice them. And it was humbling. There were certain things I couldn't do, and here I had been teaching Pilates and gyrotonic for 15 years, and there were some of these like very basic movements, and I couldn't do them. And it was humbling, and I was shocked. So fast forward, I'm at lunch with a really good friend named Lane, also my daughter's name. And I go, how do you like the workshop? She's like, it's great. Isn't he a lot like Katie Bowman? And I went, who's that? And she's like, oh, it's this woman who's like out in Seattle. And I was like, cool. I never heard of her. So I like get on my phone and I Google Katie Bowman, and I like see that she has this blog and this website, but it's lunchtime and I don't have a lot of time to look at it. So I'm like, cool, that's cool. There's somebody else in this world who's kind of doing the same stuff. So I complete the workshop and I'm like, holy cow, this is mind-blowing. And I'm missing a lot of these like ingredients and elements in my daily life, let alone my movement practice. So I'm gonna start practicing these things. So I created like little flows, little exercises, sequences, and I started giving them to clients. The other thing that Philip Beach really taught me was, so he trains Olympians out in New Zealand. He's really big into minimal footwear, barefoot, all that stuff that kind of comes with the natural movement world. And I've talked about that in the past, and if you need a little recap, I can point you towards some old blog posts. But that being said, he trains his Olympians barefoot on rock mats or out in nature. And he said that when he trains them barefoot on these like uneven, bumpy, hard terrains, and say they're like lifting like 100 pounds, I don't know, probably a lot more. When he removes the rock mats and either puts shoes on or goes on like a nice soft squishy surface, they can actually lift that 100 pounds with a lot more ease than when they originally lifted standing on the rock mat. So it's his way to get athletes to sort of jump over plateaus, which I thought was fascinating. So he showed us his rock mats, and I immediately went home and made them. And then I brought them to the studio, and then I started training clients, doing just some simple arm work on the end of the Cadillac, standing on these rock mats. Clients pull them out, they stand on them. I made a set for my standing work desk, and I stand on them all the time. I was just talking about them a few minutes ago with another client, and we love them. I have them in my house, and I just find that I want to stand on this really hard, rocky terrain because there's no other opportunity for me to do that in my daily life. And I think it promotes some foot health, some balance, because it's really getting in between those little bones in my foot that otherwise are really hard to get on flat and level surfaces, which is what we sort of live on. So Philip Beach, he was my gateway. So fast forward, I entered Katie Bowman's program, and one of the books we are required to read is her really amazing book that I highly recommend called Move Your DNA. And the foreword is written by Philip Beach. So way for my life to come full circle. But anyways, he is a very quiet presence in the natural world community because he's out in New Zealand. A little hard to get to, but that was my foray into natural movement. And then when I learned about Katie Bowman, which I'll talk about her on another time, her programs and blogs and free content and YouTube were so in abundance that I thought there was a catch. Because here I always pay and have paid for workshop content up until this point. And for the first time ever, I was going through like a pure online program, and so much of the information was free. That was really lovely. And it speaks volumes to her and her character and the accessibility that she wants for people to learn her information Her books are not that expensive. You can get them at your local library pretty easily. So yeah, so it's kind of nice, and it speaks volumes to the community, the natural world community, I think. So anywho, so Philip Beach, he was my gateway to the natural movement. If you want to learn about him, he does have a book out there. It's a thick read. It's not for the lay person, it's really for the movement professional, I think. But if you've ever done acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine, it's really fascinating. And if you've ever done anatomy trains, which a lot of movement and massage practitioners have learned, it talks about slings and these lines in your body. And so Philip Beach, his work crosses over a little bit. There's a little bit of pushback, but it's kind of cool how a lot of this stuff sort of aligns. And when you keep hearing the same information over and over again, and it sort of repeats, and it's coming from all these different sources, I consider them a movement truth. And so therefore it's really quite awesome. So that's it. So my foray into natural movement. Happy Friday. See you later. Bye.